Let's talk about the cosmic hero Adam Warlock. You probably know him for his immense power, but what if his real power isn't cosmic at all? What if it's in the two completely different, totally fascinating, symbolic stories he tells? That's exactly what we're digging into. So here's the big question that's going to shape everything we talk about. How can one character, just one guy, be both a divine savior on a holy mission and a philosopher fighting against his own fate? It sounds like a contradiction, right? But that's exactly where this character gets so interesting. And this visual just nails that core tension we're exploring. On the one hand, you see him ascending like a god, the savior. But on the other, you see this tormented soul, wrestling with the power and the burden of his existence. It's this fight between the mission for the world and the battle for himself that makes him so compelling. All right, let's start with a first interpretation, and maybe the most direct one. This is the version of Adam Warlock that was intentionally designed to be a messianic figure. You know, a kind of space Jesus. But before he was anybody's savior, he was something else entirely. He wasn't even Adam Warlock yet. He was known only as him, an artificial being cooked up in a lab by scientists for one pretty terrifying purpose: world conquest. Now, what's so wild about this is the total lack of purpose he had. The original idea was this complex philosophical thing, but that got scrapped almost immediately. So him was left as this incredibly powerful being with no mission whatsoever. He kills his creators, drifts through space, and even tries to kidnap Thor's girlfriend. He was a perfect weapon with absolutely no one aiming him. And that's crucial, because it meant he was a blank slate for someone else to write on. And that's precisely what happened in 1972. An editor named Roy Thomas, who was apparently a big fan of the rock opera Jesus Christ Superstar, saw this aimless character and had a brilliant idea. He decided to redesign him into Adam Warlock with the very specific goal of creating a superhero messiah. This wasn't some happy accident. The space Jesus metaphor was the entire blueprint for his new story. Of course, every savior needs a world to save, right? And for Warlock, that world was Counter-Earth. Picture a perfect paradise, literally created by a godlike being called the High Evolutionary. Now, imagine that paradise gets completely corrupted by a satanic villain called the Man-Beast, until it's just this twisted, ugly mockery of what it once was. Well, that's the world Warlock was sent to redeem. And here's the key to the whole mission. The High Evolutionary was very clear about his role. This quote from the source material sums it up perfectly. He wasn't supposed to be a conqueror or a king. He was sent to be a shepherd, to guide the lost and corrupted people. The biblical parallels here are about as subtle as a hammer, and that's completely by design. This timeline really just lays out the entire messianic story arc. And I mean, the parallels to the biblical narrative are just undeniable. It all starts with the commission from the father figure. Then he goes through trials and suffering, a selfless death, a literal resurrection inside a cave, and finally an ascension into the heavens. It's the classic hero's journey, just told on a cosmic spiritual scale. Okay, but what if that's not the only story being told? What if we can take that exact same narrative, the same events, the same characters, and read it through a completely different philosophical lens? That's what we're going to do now. We're going to look at Adam Warlock, not as a savior, but as a figure in a parable inspired by Friedrich Nietzsche. Now, before we dive in, we need to get one key concept down: self-overcoming. At its core, it's not about saving the world outside, it's about winning an internal war. It's about destroying the person you are fated to become so that you can create your own values, your own destiny. Just keep that idea in your back pocket. This is where it gets really fun, because we basically recast the whole story. Suddenly, the High Evolutionary isn't a loving God figure. He's the Lord, representing old external laws that must be broken. The villain, the Magus, is revealed to be Warlock's own evil future self, a devilish shadow he has to defeat. And Warlock himself? He's no longer the obedient son. He's this tormented figure, weary and suffocated by his own power and potential. And that just flips his motivation completely on its head. In this reading, he doesn't go to Counter-Earth because he's obedient. No, he goes because he's suffering from a weariness of wisdom. He knows his destiny is to become the evil, tyrannical Magus. Being a perfect god is a boring, empty fate, and he's desperate to escape it, to become something flawed, something human. So let's put them right next to each other. The space Jesus is all about obedience. His salvation is external, saving a world, and his story ends with him ascending into space. But the Nietzschean hero, he's motivated by rebellion,
a deep need to escape his fate. His salvation is internal, killing his future self. And his story ends not with an ascension, but with a descent, choosing to live among mortals on the dirt of the earth.
So, the absolute climax of this philosophical reading is this. Salvation doesn't come from a higher power. It's an act of what the Source calls the suicide of the ego. Warlock saves himself not by redeeming a planet, but by traveling into his own future and killing the Magus, destroying his own destiny to claim his own freedom. Okay, so we have two incredibly powerful but totally conflicting ways to look at this character. How on earth do they fit together in one hero? Let's bring it all home. I absolutely love this metaphor from the source material. It just explains it so perfectly. Think of it like a house built by two different architects. The first architect built a foundation for a fortress, a weapon for war, but then abandoned the project. Later, a new architect came along, took that same foundation and renovated it, turning it into a cathedral for faith. The structure is the same, but its meaning is completely transformed. So what's the big takeaway here? Well, it means that the Space Jesus story was a deliberate choice to give a character purpose. But it also means that same story can be reread as this deep, profound tale of internal philosophical struggle. And that's the magic of Adam Warlock. He's not just one or the other. He's both the savior sent from on high and the self-creator fighting the battle within. And that kind of leaves us with one final thought to chew on. When we look at our heroes, what is their true purpose? Is it all about the external mission, saving the world, saving everyone else? Or is the real battle the one that truly defines them, the internal one, the fight to save themselves from who they were always meant to be?